The pre-flight checklist. To me, this is the most important document which runs through the whole thread of the Wealth Lighthouse because it goes through every single step on the spiral staircase on the way up. It doesn't miss a single one. And it's called a pre-flight checklist because this is exactly the same process that someone who's flying would want to go through before they take off. I mean, a pilot would never take off from a plane without, first of all, going through the pre-flight checklist. Do the flaps work? Do we have fuel in the tank? Because you don't have that ability when you're up in the air to go and fix some of these things in the same way you do when you're on the ground. And so the pre-flight checklist is not just something you do once. It's something that you come back to on a regular basis. So let me share with you, first of all, why this is so important, and then we'll go through it. I mentor entrepreneurs all over the world, from people who are deep in debt trying to figure out how to get out of a challenge they've got right now, through to someone who's stuck in their business trying to figure out how to build a team, through to someone who's got multiple teams and has now got multi-million-dollar opportunities and is just wondering which one I should go for. We're all on the same spectrum, but at the same time, we all have the same checklist. And I will always start by going through the checklist with them. And the reason for that is almost always what's really causing the challenge for someone isn't what they're focusing at. It's something at a different level. It's a little bit like having a plumbing system where you're there kind of like pumping the water in, wondering why the water's not coming out the other side. It's because there's a leak somewhere in the plumbing system. And the pre-flight checklist allows us to see where that leak is. And that's why it's so important. So we're going to go through this in such a way that it doesn't matter if you're just getting started. It doesn't matter if you actually are thinking you're really successful in what you're doing right now. This is an essential thing, just like a pilot who's flown 1,000 times will still know how important the pre-flight checklist is before they take off. And as you go through, you'll see that, first of all, it's broken up into exactly the same steps within the Millionaire Master Plan, which takes you through each of the different missions also within Genius U. It starts within the 7 sections, as you can see, where we go all the way from our flight plan up to indigo level, and it breaks it up so that within each area you can see, without knowing your flight plan, without knowing where you want to go and what it is you want to achieve on the way there, there's no way to even know if you're on track or not. Just like a pilot would never take off before they know where they want to go to. In fact, they're not allowed to take off without, first of all, telling the airport where they're going to be heading, and as a result of that, setting a flight path to get there. Red level is all about measuring and managing flow. So it's about how do you get from infrared to red, because your own personal flow is the most important thing to make sure is right at this point. Then orange level is adding personal flow in, which is about not the money side, it's about your passions, it's about your purpose, so that every day you're waking up with that fuel to the engine. And then we get to yellow level, which is connecting to market flow. And because many people haven't figured out the things earlier on, they get to market flow and they simply don't have the resources or the connections to be able to grow a business successfully, which is why you need to have that foundation in place first. But at this point, it's now about just getting really clear about your positioning and really getting focused on the market. Then green level, connecting to team flow, which is the next step along the way. Orchestrating multiple streams, which is at blue level because you've now got multiple teams. And then leading market flow, which you earn the right to do by the time you get to indigo level. If you're just starting off and you're just at the red level, orange level, don't even worry about going through all the rest of them unless you're just curious about them. But if you're already up to yellow, green level, then again, start always from the beginning and move your way through, because everything from before that is most likely where the leaks are actually happening. And now let's actually have a look and see, well, what are these different steps you can take? You can either download the playbook, which allows you to actually do this manually, but I really recommend you actually complete this within the mission, within this page, because the great thing about doing it within the page is we capture that information and you can come back and redo it again in the future. I actually look at my pre-flight checklist every single week because I know what I'm like. If I just miss one thing somewhere in the midst of everything else, then that's enough to basically make me then forget it for a month and then for 2 months. And before I know it, what was just a little small kind of like tear in the fabric has become this big rip where there's now this big gap that's actually showing and all the flow is going out of it as well. So as you see here, the first ones, if you've done your flight plan and you have a very clear vision of where you want to go, you'll already be able to say, yes, this is something I've actually done. We go through that exercise within the Millionaire Master Plan book. But if you haven't, don't worry, because the next step that we're going to take in this mission is actually to go through this. So let me just go through a couple at the beginning to give you a sense of it. But the rest of it, I think you're going to be able to pick it up and actually go through all of this on your own as well. On the flight plan 1A, I have a written, inspiring future vision of where I will be that is visible and front of mind. It's like, where in the next year do you see yourself and how clear is that? If you haven't written it down, If it's not inspiring, then the answer is no. If you go, yes, I have it, and it is front of mind, great. It's the very first thing you need to do to just get a sense of clarity, or at least a rough idea of where it is you want to go, or else no one can help you to get there. 1B, I have a flight path that gives me monthly personal and financial milestones to achieve my future vision. So most of us, what's happening is we're taking off, and then we suddenly see some like great mountains and go, oh, look over there. I'm going to go see what's going on over there. And once we start our business, new opportunities show up, and we go flying off into some other direction, and we totally forget about what our flight path was and where we were going. This allows us to say, actually, we're already where we're meant to be. If new things start showing up, well, then I'm going to start timing it, that I actually do those things at the right time, as opposed to just overwhelm myself and my team with the wrong things at the wrong time. And then 1C is I follow a rhythm to review my future vision and flight path to ensure I self-correct and stay on track. That's what I do every week, is I always am just checking in again to say, am I on track, am I not? Am I trying to get to bigger goals that frankly my team weren't expecting me to be going for right now? Am I actually a little bit below the goal that I just need to do some simple things to get back onto track again? That's what pilots do. They're always just adjusting based on the weather and the wind to get back onto their flight path again, because frankly, when they take off, they can't even see where their destination is. But by having this flight path, it allows them to be able to get to that destination. Then we get onto red level, which is measuring, managing flow. And you'll see here, we break it into 3 different areas, which are the 3 steps which are at that red level. Measure your money, commit to conduct, and do your duty. And in each one of them, again, there's very specific steps. I have a system to measure my personal finances every month and know what net income is. I have a simple monthly forecast and actuals for my personal finances that allow me to track my progress. I have a banking system and a review system to ensure I am always aware of my personal financial position. Look, don't worry if you're going through these and you're just going, no, no, no. This actually is a little bit like someone who's just deciding to get fit, being asked, do you do exercise every day? Do you go for a run? It's like, no, no. It's absolutely fine because you're on a journey now. And by clicking no now, you now know what the key step is that you're looking to get to a yes. And you've got the rest of your life to be doing this, where knowing that as you're going forward, you're never unlearning this. The moment you start getting the map and understanding it, that imprint is going to last forever. Just like in your hometown, you have a map which is now in your mind, because when you got there, you might not have known all the different places within your town, but every time that you actually went out and drove around or walked around, you added to that mental map, and now you can find your way around pretty easily without even having to look at the map. So this is exactly what this is. It's a map which allows us to find our way up the steps of the lighthouse. And as you go through this, you'll see on the red level, there's measure your money, commit to conduct, do your duty. Once you've actually said yes on all of those, I can guarantee you'll be moving already up to the orange level. And then you've got pinpoint your passion, set your standards, follow the flow. And when these things are all clicked yes, you're going to be up to the yellow level, where then it's about identify your identity, master your market, monetize your moment. And then by the time we're moving up to green level, establish your enterprise, refine your rhythm, synchronize your steps. And then now we're at blue, anchor your authority, perfect your processes, build your balance. And for those who actually get up to indigo level, which is the realms of the multi-millionaires, trump your trust, capitalize your currency, connect your community. Here's the most important thing about this. You don't need to worry about every step. Just like if you were deciding to learn to fly, you wouldn't start by having to memorize the entire flight deck when you actually get into the cockpit. Because to begin with, you're just getting the basics in place. Then you're starting to kind of learn how to fly. Then you're going to be co-piloting and working with others. And you're going to find every time you come back to the same map, which doesn't change, you just start becoming more and more familiar with it. The good news is, once you actually perfect every one of these steps, you move up the lighthouse without fail. This is the GPS. It is the map, which is missing in most of our lives because we didn't get this at school. But now with this flight path and with this future vision, you're going to see that you can come back at any time to our pre-flight checklist and just see how you're progressing over the next month, over the next year, and every time you're coming back as well, you can be taking that real great, like simple win, going from a no to a yes, going from a no to a yes. So give it a go, fill it out as best you can now, and you only need to go up to the level wherever you are at the moment, and then get ready for the next step.